Welcome to the Afterglow podcast, a space to practice Yoga Nidra informed by the ideas of Carl Jung and internal family systems. Each week we will work on a different life theme, giving us the opportunity to discover vast inner landscapes, sitting with all that life has to offer as we explore who we are. May the afterglow be as bright as the journey is deep. This week we'll be talking about quitting smoking in part 1, and in part 2 there'll be a body appreciation Yoga Nidra that will focus on lung support and act as a vehicle to carry you hopefully into a space where you no longer require nicotine, or at least require much less. The body appreciation Yoga Nidra can be done by anyone. You don't have to be a smoker, but of course it is designed with smokers in mind, and the idea is that you use it as often as you need to support you as you overcome nicotine addiction. Let's dive in. So, as I often do, I'll just start off by acknowledging where you may be, and in this case where you may be in regards to your lung health. This Yoga Nidra can be done by anyone, regardless of whether you have lung disease, allergies, asthma, if you're a smoker, or if you tend to shallow breathe when anxious. In fact, it will hopefully ease the muscles around the lungs and release mental tension that creates a cycle of improper breathing. As always, come as you are and enjoy the soothing and energizing effects of this week's theme. If I say smoker, this includes vapors. I will be giving you my anti-smoking talk as well in a little bit, but it is kind, I promise. To start, let's take a moment to notice how your lungs are feeling right now. I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds, and I suggest that you pay attention to the way your lungs feel, the muscles in your chest. Pay attention to how easily you are breathing. Keep your breath as it is, natural. Just observe. And do so now. Very good. And continue to breathe naturally, just being generally aware. Breathing is a bit like posture. As soon as someone mentions it, you sit up and breathe better. So notice if your breathing does slump, or if it deepens with attention, or anything else while you go about whatever it is that you're doing while listening to this episode. The breath that we welcome into our bodies gets absorbed into our blood, into our organs. How we breathe often says something about the unconscious, about stored mental tension. In traditional Chinese medicine, the lungs are the original source of qi, qi meaning the vital life energy. The quality of our breathing has a ripple effect on our skin, our blood, our organs, our energy levels, our senses, and of course our thoughts. In traditional medicine, the body system is one entity, the energy, the physical form, and the mind all interacting with each other. Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and traditional Tibetan medicine all believe that food can impact the mind, that climate can impact the mood, that a healthy system is gained through seeing everything as a whole and tending to all parts, parts being the mind, the body, and the chi or prana. Prana and chi being the same concept, just different languages. In regards to lung health, whether you have lung cancer, asthma, TB, It's not helpful to mine your unconscious mind for reasons as to why you have this disease. In this episode, I'm happy to say that hay fever is hay fever, that asthma is asthma. Yes, there is an interplay between the mind and the body, but not everything goes in the direction of originating in the mind. I have a dust allergy that can make me bedridden for 2 days, and if somebody said to me that it was psychosomatic, I would be pretty irritated. I say this because I am not positing that all lung-related issues are psychological. Instead, I am saying that there is an interplay, actions and reactions, cycles of behavior, and a blur of symptoms. If you're a smoker, we have to accept that there is a dance between the mind's attachment to the ritual and the physical addictive qualities of the nicotine. We have to accept that the mind becomes weighed down by the addiction and forms certain negative beliefs about ourselves, and that the harm done to ourselves through smoking encourages us to feel negatively about ourselves in turn, and it all just folds in on itself repeatedly. And we don't have to explore the depths of our unconscious to figure out why we started smoking in the first place, nor do we need to quit with absolutely nothing to hold on to. Instead, we can create a bridge through a Yoga Nidra practice or something else, if it suits you better, that you can carry yourself into a space where you no longer require the ritual practice of smoking. Through the practice of Yoga Nidra, the unconscious mind will be able to release a lot of tension. The mixed-up nature of habits and beliefs dissolve in time, and Yoga Nidra is extraordinarily good at helping us dissolve certain mental tensions. The Yoga Nidra that I will be uploading in a few days will leave you feeling more open and relaxed, and hopefully more energized too. When I say energized, I don't mean hyperactive. I mean that quiet and calm energy that is consistent and enduring, making us feel light and spacious in our bodies and in our lives. By adding more beneficial practices, even as a crutch, it is easier to step away from habits. One of the hardest parts about quitting is the feeling that we are stepping off a cliff into nothingness. Having a regular Yoga Nidra to do that helps remind you of your health and vitality, helps bring it to the surface, helps give you courage to stand up to addiction, and makes a massive difference compared to relying on willpower alone. Now, I used to smoke. I smoked from 16 to 34, with a few breaks in between. It felt like it wasn't so bad because I was smoking hand-rolled cigarettes for the most part, or at least I told myself it was healthier. And I loved smoking. I have described it as my best friend, as a beloved hobby. I've also thought of it as an extension of who I was. To this day, my alter ego is an old Greek woman named Agnes, and she's dressed all in black. Agnes sits on a small pier by the sea in some hot Greek sunlit island, and she is chain smoking and drinking espresso after espresso while shouting at children to be careful when they jump into the water. I don't know why I have this strong image, but in another life, I hope I get to be Agnes. There is something that smokers understand. There is a skewness to the act that is so appealing. Non-smokers just don't understand this. Smokers are showing everyone what life is about. And by that I mean we are all chasing quick highs and trying to garland pleasurable moments to keep us going. Smokers do this so overtly. We create our own problem, nicotine withdrawal, and focus our time and energy and money on fixing this problem either once or twice or 20 times a day. Everyone does this, but smokers are just so upfront about it. There is a Buddhist saying that goes something to the effect of, "We are all dogs licking honey off of razor blades." I loved being a smoker, and that's something that non-smokers also don't understand. Yes, it is not fun having a massive hole in your budget, and yes, you feel like crap all the time, and you smell bad, and your sense of taste is not so great, and you can't breathe properly, or at least you think you can, but you don't realize until you've quit for a really long period of time that what you were doing before is not proper breathing. But it's the best. It's the funnest way to spend time with yourself. And I understand the feeling of losing that and the fear of what will replace it. Is it going to be something worse? Is it going to be something harder or less pleasurable? And I can't answer those questions for you, only you can. But I can say for myself that it's better in every way, in every way, in every way to not smoke. At least 3 things happened to me that helped me quit. One was a Maya Angelou anecdote. The second was having a few friends give me their very honest opinions about smokers. And the third came during a layover flight in Doha. Starting with the first one. So, Maya Angelou. I have a memory, a strong memory, of a video I watched of Maya Angelou telling a story about her mother catching her smoking. I have looked everywhere for this video so that I can quote her directly now, but I can't find it anywhere. I found similar quotes, and it is possible that my memory is a mashup of different stories that I've heard from her over different timelines that I've somehow conflated. Either way, I'm going to share the story that I remembered, because even if it is paraphrasing a false memory, it helped me. The memory that I have is Maya is telling the story about being about 21 and her mother catches her smoking. I seem to recall it was near a train station or a bus or something. Her mother chooses kindness. She approaches Maya and she says, "Don't you know that you matter? Don't you know that I love you?" I will keep looking for the video, but equally I think that even if I did make it up, the sentiment strikes right to the heart of something smokers like to skirt around. And I'll get to that in a moment. But I do want to quickly mention a story that I did find about Maya talking about quitting smoking based on something her mother said. And I know that's pretty much evidence that my memory is a false memory because the stories are not exactly the same. But I still, out of stubbornness, will keep looking for a video that potentially doesn't exist. The story that I can find is that her mother says to her something along the lines of Maya being the greatest woman that she has ever met. And this really strikes to the core of Maya and her view of herself. And from that day, she stops smoking and she stops cussing because she muses, suppose I really am somebody. And I think that that is a really touching story. I also think that my potential fictional memory that is not coming from me. I think it is really a collection of Maya thoughts. I still believe that it's imbued with her and the way she talks and the way that she communicates sentiments and encourages people to believe in themselves a little bit more. Anyway, the second thing I mentioned, and this is tying back to what I mentioned a moment ago, that there is something that smokers like to skirt around. So I mentioned that there were friends who finally felt comfortable enough to express themselves about their true opinions on smoking. Around the time I was quitting, I had several friends who were daily smokers, although all of them but one has since quit. There are two friends, though, that have never been smokers, and independently, without ever having met each other, they told me at similar times very similar things. They said how completely and utterly repulsive they found smoking. Most people are too polite to say this. They were not interested in being polite. They complained openly and disparagingly about how much smokers perplexed them, how horrible it was to watch smokers ruining their health for no reason. Then, and weirdly, this is the thing that really got me, they both said the same thing. They said, I just don't understand. I just don't care to understand because there is no reasonable justification for it. Why people want to do this to themselves, and how we are all just watching them in silence as they harm their bodies. And we all have someone probably in our lives who's pleaded with us, who has told us that we're hurting ourselves. Maybe it's a parent or a partner or a really close friend. And yet we become really numb to that sentiment. And I don't know why I became more willing to listen then at the time that these people were saying it. I don't know if it's the way they said it. I don't know if it was the back-to-back pleas for me to listen to what they were saying. But something in it just really struck home that my friends did not want to watch me hurting myself. And I think that we like to forget, because it's socially acceptable, because it's a legal addiction, we like to forget that it's self-abuse in many ways. Finally, the third thing that happened was in Doha airport. I went for a cigarette and I was looking at all of the people in the smoker's box. Everyone looked grey, and for the first time I truly saw that they were poisoning themselves. I always knew this intellectually, but seeing everyone crammed into this horrible see-through box and pumping poison into themselves, and seeing the reality of the poison in their skin and hair and eyes, no one looked happy. We were all there servicing a problem that we designed. I decided then that I did not want to be one of these people anymore. I didn't want to keep poisoning myself. Previously, when I had quit, I missed smoking terribly. I felt the pangs of grief long after the physical withdrawal stopped. And when I started again, it was because, and I'm quoting something that I actually said out loud, I just don't enjoy my life without cigarettes. I loved the pairing of a cigarette and coffee. I loved driving alone through the countryside with a good playlist and a cigarette. I loved the community of smokers, bunching around and chatting. It wasn't like I wasn't into health either. Every other aspect of my life was focused on health. I was meditating, I was training to be a Yoga Nidra teacher or practicing Yoga Nidra, doing tons of yoga. I ate incredibly healthily. I've always been vegetarian or vegan, and I eat next to no processed foods. I exercise, I'm mindful about chemicals in products, about fresh air. I once joined a weekend course to understand trail running and navigation because I was running a lot at the time. And everyone couldn't believe that after running 20 kilometers, I got back to the bed and breakfast and had a cigarette. They even joked that I should start a running group for smokers called Fags and Fells. I'm aware that that joke only translates to a British audience, so to everyone else, please give me the benefit of the doubt. Something about quitting this time was different. Something had slowly been switching in my brain, and I now think of smoking as being the same as eating dog poop. I can't stand being around smokers. I don't have the same longing look in my eyes when I see someone having a smoke and a coffee. I just don't want to do that to my body ever again. I don't want to mistreat this wonderful home that I have, especially when all it is trying to do is keep me alive and healthy. So, in a couple of minutes, I will give you the talk. It may still be a while before you are ready to quit, but I hope that my sincere desire for your health stays with you, gets into the folds of you, and begins to shift the way that you see yourself and the way that you see your relationship to nicotine. Before that, I'm going to talk about life after smoking. My baseline of health has been drastically elevated. I vaped for a few months as a way to wean myself off cigarettes, but I soon quit vaping because it made my blood feel toxic. I know that sounds a bit dramatic, and I have no way of knowing or proving it, but that was how it felt. I felt more unhealthy vaping than smoking cigarettes. I had a week-long holiday planned, and I purposefully left my vape at home, hoping that the time away would be distracting and that the change of scenery would help me break out of the physical addiction. And it worked. I came back and threw everything away. Both quitting smoking and vaping were hard. I displaced my anger and grief onto other things in my life and other people, and felt some despair that at the time I was convinced was not about the withdrawal. It doesn't really matter if we hold the awareness or not. It only matters that we keep on track with quitting, no matter how many times we fail. And we can do the best to warn the people in our lives to be extra gracious with us, and we can accept that it might take a while for us to see how much the withdrawal really affected us. But all of that is worth the price of admission if admission is into a life where you're healthy and not smoking, not dependent on nicotine anymore. It has now been a few years, and I forget that my life was once ruled by cigarette breaks and cigarette butts. My lungs feel amazing. The passageway between my nose and stomach all feel light and relaxed. I can feel my body is grateful. My friend, who is a Tibetan medicine scholar and Tibetan translator, shared, in Tibetan, to say one has big lungs is a very old way of saying one is brave or courageous in facing the world. I think I do feel more courageous. I think it is because I feel like I have more to defend. It didn't happen immediately, it was over time. And it is through making this one change and then another and another that slowly bigger, longer stretches of time occur where I'm just generally making decisions without thinking about it, that is taking care of myself in ways that I invisibly wasn't before. Whether it's something like flossing your teeth or cutting down on sugary snacks, going to bed earlier, these all seem really minor, but when we consistently don't do them and pay the price for it, there is a way in which we're consistently just denying ourselves things that are needs, not wants. And these small shifts have a much bigger, more nuanced impact. They beget each other. They shift one's perception of self, making it easier to see things as non-negotiables. To give an example that is more relational, let's say people who are used to playing the family scapegoat, and they can struggle to make a change because in the moment there are lots of demands and high emotions, and it's easier to just throw themselves into the blame pit because they're so used to being there anyway. And they could say something to themselves along the lines of, I know that it's not my fault that the house is a mess and that the kids haven't been bathed or fed, but it will help the family system function in peace if I let it slide that I'm being wrongly accused. I'm already so low to the ground. What difference does this one more small blame make? And I'm here to say that it makes all the difference. The same with people pleasers. I can stay up late to do this thing I promised my friend. What difference is one night? All of these are little betrayals of self. They add up. They're no different in many ways to smoking cigarettes or eating a box of donuts or continually denying ourselves a decent sleep schedule. Don't get me wrong, if you have severe insomnia, I understand that's an entirely different thing. I'm talking about sleep avoidance. And I'm not saying that we can never bite our tongue or do someone a favor. What I am saying is that by shifting a bad habit, by laying down a boundary in one area of our lives, there are positive ripple effects. Smoking is the same. I'm already so low. I'll quit after my mother visits. I'll quit when so-and-so quits. I'll quit when I get a less stressful job. To help myself cope with the loss of cigarettes in my life, I replaced smoking with cooking. It had taken me so long to truly see that smoking was a form of inflicting self-harm, and I can't say for sure whether or not it was a conscious decision to replace smoking with food. And when I say food, I mean cooking really good food. And I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but that's what happened. And I needed to feed myself, and I fed myself. I fed myself incredible food, and I read recipe books in bed to fall asleep. I splashed out on fancy ingredients and took the effort to make naan breads from scratch. I cooked dokla. If anyone has made dokla, you know how tricky it is. And I made incredible bao buns, fluffy and light. And I began to fill my own recipe book like it was my own private journal. I fed my friends. I made a feast for Friday night dinners. My homemade hummus is out of this world. I may sound arrogant and I don't care. I saved myself from smoking by eating passionately. Something transmutes when we shift behaviors. Small improvements start to filter in. Maybe you start drinking a cup of warm water in the morning, and soon it becomes a necessary ritual. Perhaps it is flossing your teeth, or walking up the stairs instead of taking the lift. Maybe it's saying, I'm sorry you are having a hard day. These things you are blaming me for are not my fault, but I'll make you a cup of tea and I'll give you a hug. I understand that that's maybe idealistic, but start wherever you can. Find the words that you need to find to try and subtly shift and change. Maybe it's sticking to a 10:30 bedtime. These things seem so easy when they become part of our day to day. Not smoking feels incredibly easy to me now. Look, in many ways you aren't ready until you're ready, but a few things helped me get ready, and I hope that this episode is one for you, one of those things. So now in a moment I'm going to give you the talk. Listen to it as many times as you need to. Tell yourself these words. Change them if you need to, whatever feels best. Oh, actually, a suggestion. One of my friends who is a Yoga Nidra teacher, she was in the same class that I was in when I did my training. She told me recently that she likes to record. She has a phenomenal story, and I'm going to be bringing her onto the podcast to interview her about her story soon. So without giving too much away, she shared that she likes to record herself saying really kind, gentle things, and she goes into a state of Yoga Nidra and she listens to herself say them. And I could not do that's not how I could do Yoga Nidra. I would really struggle to do it that way. But if that is something that in me saying this now you think, oh, that sounds pretty great, then you can record yourself saying these words or similar words, and you can listen to your own voice telling you. Because as much as it may be helpful and beneficial for me to do it, I don't know that that's the one way for everyone. In fact, I know that it isn't the one way for everyone. So if it works for you to record your own voice saying really positive encouragement that really like helps sort of get you to a space of absorbing these ideas, then by all means go ahead. Okay. Please pay attention to these words. I'm talking now directly to you and to your unconscious mind. You matter. Your body, your health, your life matters. There are people who really want you to be the best, healthiest version of you that you can be. No one in your life wants you to smoke. If they do, they are selfish. Your body wants to be healthy and strong, and it is never too late to quit. Your ability to survive the constant influx of poison into your system is not a sign of strength. There is no pride in smoking. You matter. You are so lovable, and you are so very loved. I am a complete stranger, and I want you to quit, because whoever you are, you deserve a happy, healthy body. Give your future self the gift of a strong body and the ability to breathe freely. Know that feelings of self-annihilation or impoverishment of the soul, of value, they are all just an illusion of addiction. You are so much greater, so much more than the voice of the poison that wants to be consumed by you. Stand up to it, and every time it knocks you, stand up again. Do not be bullied by that voice. Don't you know that you matter? Don't you know that you are loved? If you have forgotten, let me remind you. For whatever time we have here, it shouldn't be spent forgetting. You matter, and you are loved. And when you do the Yoga Nidra in a few days, make sure that the room you're in is well ventilated, that there is no incense or other particulates. Your lungs should be able to breathe freely of the freshest air available. No perfumes, no aromatherapy oils, just clean air. And wear comfortable, loose clothing that is a natural fiber. In fact, in general, try and aim for more natural, comfortable fibers, looser clothing, so that your skin can breathe too in its own way. Imagine that over the next few days, you are letting the air into your whole being to clear out stagnation and grime. If possible, try to increase your access to frequent fresh air, either by opening all the windows to air out your home or going for long walks in nature. And go over the words that I shared a moment ago as I talk to you. You don't have to make any drastic changes. Trust that your unconscious mind will get to work shifting things and readying you for change. And I will end this episode with part 1 with a quote from Maya Angelou, because I believe that it is of immense value when standing up to the bully that is nicotine, the great corrupter that is addiction. I believe that it is of value to imagine yourself speaking these words to the symbolic image of nicotine or addiction. Maya writes, "There is a place in you that you must keep inviolate. You must keep it pristine, clean, so that nobody has the right to curse you or treat you badly. Nobody. No mother, no father, no wife, no husband, no nobody. You have to have a place where you say, stop it, back up. Don't you know that I am a child of God?" Thank you for joining us for this weekly companion episode. It really does add to the experience that you will have in Yoga Nidra. The Yoga Nidra will be uploaded in a few days, giving you time to reflect on the questions that I've asked you. Please subscribe to receive notifications for this new Yoga Nidra episode as well as for future ones. Thank you for adding your light and kindness to the world and for doing this important inner work. May the afterglow be as bright as the journey is deep. See you soon.